Hello and welcome to Mindset and Muscles with Amanda. I'm your host, Amanda Patricelli. Yes, I did just get married. We'll talk about that on another podcast, but welcome back or welcome if this is your first time tuning in. I'm excited for today's podcast. Today I have Cale Delaney. Cale Delaney, who self-titles himself as the Accidental Intentional Millionaire, a little bit of a tongue twister, is a Christian real estate investor, entrepreneur, husband, and father of three. After graduating cum laude with an engineering degree from University of Miami, he began his real estate career in 2006, working as a commercial real estate investment broker in Miami. He was awarded the Pace Setter Award his first year for most number of listings and sold over $7 million in multifamily and retail real estate. However, with the crash of '08, he left that business and put real estate on hold until 2020 when he decided to go all in to stop building generational wealth for his family. Cale's focus now is on building his STR business with the intent to diversify into larger multifamily and/or self-storage for additional passive income streams. He also has several projects in the work, including a nonprofit, mastermind program, co-hosting, and podcast called the Fit Investor Podcast. Cale, thank you so much for being on my podcast today.
Thank you, and welcome back to America, and congratulations on getting formally married.
Thank you so much. Yeah, so Cale and I met via a Facebook group, and we were talking about getting people on podcasts, X, Y, and Z. So I was on the Fit Investor Podcast. Go check that out. Shameless plug. So go check that out. And yeah, we just really connected and we, shot the shit. And I was like, Cale, be on my podcast. I think this would be a great time. So Cale, thank you again so much for being on my podcast. And thank you so much. Italy was amazing. So I was reading what you sent for your bio, and I was like, wow, okay, so these are a lot of accolades. You put in a lot of work. I have a lot of questions, but my first and foremost question is, tell me a little bit about your story and how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sure. So I won't go all the way back. I'll kind of start where I got started in the real estate and things kind of took off. Prior to that, I worked basically 15 years as a project manager for a large construction company, doing concrete repairs across the country, primarily in Florida though. And, living the typical American lifestyle, right? Working, 50, 60 hours a week, putting money in the 401k and IRAs and, do the same thing day in and day out, thinking that's the way to go. And it really was the birth of my youngest son, who's almost 4 now, towards the end of 2019, that really set me off down this path. And it just got me starting to think that I can't see myself doing that same thing for the next 30, 40 years and, hoping to retire and have something built up, so that I can retire comfortably. And, just looking at the peers in that industry that were a lot older and around that retirement age, it was not what I wanted to see myself be. And so I started to think of what can I do? Like, I don't know how to get out. I just know that I need to, not only for myself, but for, building something for the family. I want to be able to spend time with the family and the kids and everything more. And so I just started kind of going down the rabbit hole of what can I do? And around that time, I read the book again, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which, is very famous within the entrepreneurial world and for good reason. And I read that, and that really kind of crystallized the vision of, okay, if you want to get out of the so-called rat race, you have to have a business and be an investor. And real estate was the only thing that I kind of knew because of that previous experience that you mentioned, way back. And so again, just did my research, books, podcasts, doing everything that the experts were saying to do to be able to get started. And, within about, I think it was 6 months or so after kind of making that formal decision of, okay, real estate's going to be my way to generational wealth and leaving the corporate world. I think we closed on our first investment property, and then just really took off from there. I thought long-term rentals was how I was going to going to go. But I quickly realized it was going to take a lot longer than I really wanted to be able to get to the income goals to get me free. And so I pivoted a little bit later towards the end of 2020 into short-term rentals from actually hearing about it on a podcast. I really didn't know a lot about short-term rentals. I didn't even know where the market was that I invest in now, which is the Smoky Mountains in Tennessee. I literally had to Google map it after the podcast. And a week later, packed up a minivan with 7 people and drove 16 hours out to the Smoky Mountains to take a look. 3 weeks later, we were under contract on our first, cabin in the mountains. And over the next 18 months or so, we purchased another 6 cabins, I think it was. And we've just been off to the races since then. So it's been a fast and not so easy journey, but it got me to be able to leave the W-2 or the corporate world in less than 2 years, and so now I'm quote unquote retired and focusing on the real estate full time.
Wow. Okay. So if anyone listened or watched, because obviously this is on YouTube too, I just got goosebumps. I know you can't hear the goosebumps, but that's super impressive. And I know a lot of people are like, yeah. Wow, this guy did this. Like, I'm sure it was like easy. Because, people are always skeptical of someone, being super successful and just like actually sticking to what they want to do. So my question to you is, obviously you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. This isn't meant for me. What can I pursue? And you did the research and you invested in teaching yourself essentially. So what was your point where you were like, I know you said you looked around and you were like, this isn't it, but what was like the point? I know you said also it was the birth of your first son, but was there like some pivotal moment that you were like, this is it for me?
It really was the birth of my son. So I mean, so we actually have 3 kids, but the youngest, was my first son. The other 2 are my wife's from a previous marriage. So, having him be born and see him as a baby and just be around him, it really is a life-changing experience when you have your first child. So that really was the pivotal moment. I mean, I had wanted to leave that profession for a while, but there was never a strong enough pain point, so to speak, to say, okay, you got to do something. And so that really, that birth of my son was ultimately what pushed me over the edge to saying, all right, enough's enough. You got to stop talking about it. Let's do something.
I mean, I love that. That's such a huge risk. And a lot of people in life just don't know what it's like to take such a huge risk in their life. I mean, it's an entrepreneur thing. So you and I can relate. And I love that. I can understand, and God willing, we will be in the same boat someday, Maurizio and I having children. But they always say when you have a child, like things change. And that sounds like such like a beautiful moment, but also a huge jumpstart to creating generational wealth. And I wanted to hit on that. So generational wealth is something that I don't hear often on a day to day. It's more when I'm listening to podcasts or watching other entrepreneurs. So explain to me why generational wealth is important to you. I know that seems like it should be pretty self-explanatory, but I'm intrigued.
Yeah. For me, and I think like a lot of people, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth. I had a very, very modest, upbringing. Grew up in a divorced household. So, single mother. So we didn't, I didn't have much growing up. And that somehow or another, instilled, I guess, just some sort of financial responsibility or prudence in my life. So like I've always been very, very conservative and responsible with my money, whether it was, saving, just being frugal, living below my means, and that whole thing. And again, I thought that was the way to do it. Society kind of teaches you that, save your money and invest in, again, the 401k, IRA, all that good stuff. And that's going to be your ticket to, wealth and riches and, living on the beach in retirement. It's a bunch of BS, frankly. And, we don't have time to go into all that, but that's the reality of it. It really is. So, and just on a quick note, I mean, ask yourself how many people who are retired who have followed that plan that, how many of them are sitting on a beach, on their yacht or on their boat or whatever in retirement? Probably
exactly.
not many. So just look at the clues. So anyway, um, that was kind of how I grew up and how my mindset was. And so again, just going back to the children and everything, I wanted something different, for them. I didn't want them to be trapped or sold on that lie of that this is the only way to do things. And I wanted to build something so that if hopefully, one of them or all of them want to pursue an entrepreneurial path or a real estate path, then at least they'll have something to get started. And have a legacy to pass down. And then on top of that, to have something that you can build so you can give back as well. Because that's an important part of things also, is that, it's not just about building the wealth for you or your family or anything like that. I'm a man of faith. So, it's important for me for being able to give back, and building wealth is one way that you can really make some big impacts as well.
I love that. I mean, I don't know many people. I mean, I'm fortunate where I came from a family that if I needed something, like, it was there, and my mindset is very similar to yours. Like, I want generational wealth. I want to invest in things in X, Y, and Z. Do you believe that the way you grew up had a huge impact on how you are today? Or do you think you'd feel the same and do the same or differently if you had a different upbringing, if you were, quote unquote, born with a silver spoon in your mouth?
Yeah, I mean, I think it did, and it certainly has some negative impacts as well. And one thing that I still struggle with now is, I grew up with a very, very scarcity mentality, right? And I still have that to this day, and it's something that I struggle to get over with. And the real estate investing community is one of the most sharing and open communities and industries out there, which is one thing that really drew me to it. And a big reason for that is because so many people, so many investors in the real estate industry have an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset. And so that's not something I'm still working, really hard to try to overcome. And it is getting better, slowly here and there, as I grow and learn more. But that scarcity mentality was definitely, from my upbringing and one of the negative aspects of it.
Mm-hmm.
But on the positive side, like I touched on earlier, it did teach me to be, responsible with my finances, because I knew I didn't want to live like that, when I was mature or able to live my own life. So it instilled those disciplines, I guess, in me as well.
You just mentioned discipline. So how important is discipline in your day-to-day life? Because I try to teach this to my clients, obviously, like, be disciplined, do this. This is how you're going to be successful. Consistency, discipline.
Yeah.
How important is that in your day-to-day life?
Oh, it's critical. I mean, my whole thing is, uh, consistency plus discipline plus time equals success. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's almost a guaranteed formula for whatever it is that you're pursuing, whether it's business or fitness or whatever. If you are consistent and you're disciplined about it and you give it enough time, you are going to be successful in that in one way or another. So discipline is huge for me. And again, that's just part of my personality. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe my wife would probably tell you a little bit to the extreme.
Well,
but
because that's what wives do. Because now I'm a wife, but that's what we do. We just like to, like, nudge
yeah,
it just
right.
a little bit, right where it's a little sensitive. I mean, I love that. I also love that you brought up fitness, and if anyone follows entrepreneurs, not just myself or Cale, you'll look at other entrepreneurs and they're very disciplined when it comes to fitness,
Yeah.
and there's clearly a correlation there. Where do you think the correlation is with fitness as well in regards to your business?
Yeah. So I mean, fitness, beyond the physical portion of it is huge for mindset, right? And especially in the entrepreneurial world where typically it's a high stress environment. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
especially when you're getting started. I mean, there's a lot of weight on your shoulders. You're trying to build something from scratch. There's a lot of challenges that come up and that you're inexperienced for. And so yeah, you're gonna have a lot of stress, and physical fitness is, among other things, a huge outlet for mental stress. And that's one of the big important things for me, because that 2 hours or so in the gym each morning, that's the only time that my mind is kind of not shut off, but, focused on one thing and present in the here and now. The rest of the day, even at night, like it's going, 100 miles an hour. So that 2 hour time frame, I'm not looking at the phone. I'm listening to my music. I'm focused on what I'm doing and what I'm lifting, and I'm there. And so it's a decompression, really a mental decompression, which is hugely critical. Again, especially in the entrepreneurial world, and of course the physical aspect. I mean, again, I've been weightlifting's my thing. So I've been, lifting weights for 25 years, since I was 14 years old, and I never stopped. And that's just part of my daily routine. It's what I do. It's who I am. And it's important to me. It makes me feel good physically. And I'm just a huge believer that you've got to keep your body moving. Like, no matter what, if you're sick, get moving, and some people don't like hearing it, but I mean, like, if you're sick, for me, don't lay in bed. Like, get up, get outside, get
Yeah, because
moving.
you almost like feel worse for yourself. I mean,
Yes.
it's obviously, disclaimer, it's not like, also depends on like what's going on.
Of course.
But I feel like everyone kind of assumes that. So in case anyone wants to get offended about it, but it's true. I mean, if I don't work out, which obviously I have a rest day, like my day is thrown out of
Right.
whack. It's like my brain is going a million miles a minute. And even if I look like I'm all there, I have already thought about another business, another this, something I can make better. It's like this all the time. And I'm at the gym. I throw on some, most of the time, heavy metal, like screaming in my ears. My clients think it's the funniest thing. And I'm like, really? Like, you wouldn't guess that? Like, I don't like, you don't look at me and think, wow, she listens to Pantera. You think I listen to Taylor Swift? I don't listen to Taylor Swift, not knocking her. She's also another businesswoman. But like, if I don't have that going, like, I'm almost like mentally exhausted from my own self. Do you feel
Yeah.
that way? Like, I just
Yeah.
feel like I'm mentally fatigued by the end of the day because my brain is like, hey, we're not gonna calm the fuck down. Like, we're just not gonna do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only mentally fatigued, but physically fatigued. I mean, like, even in the morning, like, because I work out in the mornings, but if I don't work out in a day or whatever, like, I'm exhausted in the morning. Like,
Yes.
I feel tired, and it just, like, you feel lethargic throughout the day for whatever reason. But, I get that workout in, like, I feel fantastic afterwards. And it sets me up for the rest of the day. So, and that's why I'm a big proponent now. I haven't always been this way, but a big proponent now for working out in the mornings. If you can. I think it's just a great way to set up your day, kind of calm your mind, like we were talking about, and just get you going and pumped up.
Absolutely. I always recommend to people that if they're starting a routine or what have you, to structure your routine around waking up and working out, getting your body moving, because even like I notice a difference in myself if I'm working out at night. Like I'll crush it. Like sometimes, like I wouldn't say sometimes, I'd say like a 12th of the time it's like a little half-assed. But if I wake up and I'm on point and I work out, you're not gonna phase me. Yeah, I mean, things are gonna happen. People might piss me off or what have you. But like my day already started on the highest note. So like everything else is just an added plus. So I feel like you think the same way.
Yeah, and I think there's a feeling of accomplishment too when when you do all this stuff, and it's still, before 7 or 8 a.m., when most people are just kind of, still yawning and grabbing their cup of coffee. It's just, there's a feeling of accomplishment that I think comes with that too, that just makes you feel a little bit better to get the day going.
Absolutely. So now that we're on the fitness topic, because clearly we love fitness. So what is like what's your diet or your lifestyle other than the gym look like?
Yeah. Uh, you know, I could say I had I really have a great diet or anything like that. It's when you're married with 3 kids and you're and you have a business, there's only so much you can do.
Of course.
So, I don't eat poor or anything like that. Let's just put it that way. But we eat a lot of chicken and rice.
There's
my
nothing
wife
wrong with that.
my wife loves white rice, and
Mm-hmm.
she knows it, and it drives me nuts, because
Why?
every meal is a heaping plate of white rice in it. But that's besides the point. But yeah, so I mean, my diet is not anything strict, and I've never been a proponent of strict quote unquote diets. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's setting yourself up for failure. In my opinion, you should just train yourself if you need to, but get into the mindset of eating, a relatively healthy diet, or I don't want to use the word diet, meals, whatever.
Yeah.
Because, when you subscribe to a diet or anything like that, you go into it with a temporary mindset. Right. And what happens is that if they complete it, they usually end up crashing back down to whatever they did before, and then maybe even be worse off, right? Because they felt deprived.
Yep.
If you get into the mindset of, this is just how I'm going to eat from now on, this is the way I'm going to have my nutrition, that's how you be successful. Going back to the consistency and discipline, right? That's how you're going to be successful with your diet and your nutrition. So, I mean, again, I don't eat super, super strict. It's a lot of times it's very basic and the same thing over and over. I start my day out with a big old protein shake. That's how I start my mornings, and then or after my workouts. And then it's nothing special for lunch and dinner. But stay away from fast food. Hardcore against that. Hardcore against soda. Hardcore against sugar. All right, one of my favorite topics there. And so again, I just think it's being smart about what you eat, and not necessarily needing to subscribe to any of these fad diets.
So you touch on like 7 things. So like, sorry, my dog's here, so all over my microphone. One can see that. I literally see it. It's like Frank's all over here. So, yes, I mean, majority of people I would say don't have that mindset and can't have that mindset and can't see out of their own, like, can't get out of their own way. And I can empathize with that, but I also see it from your end. It's like, this is how you're going to be healthy. Eat what's healthy and don't eat, all
Right.
this shit. So
Pretty
I also, it's self-explanatory, but like it's very difficult for the majority of the
Yeah.
population, especially in America. And I might have like set you up for the question that we were talking about last time on the podcast about sugar and all like the bad additives. I mean, we have time to go down like a mini rabbit hole, like maybe like a little baby rabbit hole. So if no one listened to the podcast that I was on with the Fit Investor podcast, we touched on this and how there's a lot of chemicals put in the food. Sugar's really bad. Cale, how much of a rabbit hole do you want to go down with that right now?
I mean, we can go as far as you want to. For the time's sake, we can keep it relatively brief and surface level. I mean, look, I would encourage anybody who even is interested in kind of seeing, just do some Google searches. It's actually honestly it's extremely interesting, at least to me, the history of the sugar industry, and how it integrates or correlates with the fat industry. In that fat, this is what, the 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, with the advent of like TV dinners and that type of thing. And that's when everything started becoming this like low fat or no fat. And the reason being is that the sugar industry really put a huge marketing and propagandizing effort into demonizing fat, saying that fat is the enemy, fat is the enemy. So they pulled the fat out of everything. And what do you do as a result? Because fat is what gives flavor. You pump in sugar. And so now that's what we have. We have these low fat diets with super high sugar. So, I mean, go back. The history it's all about money, right? That's typically what things go back to.
I literally was having this question about something completely not related yesterday about I know it's pharmaceutical companies. We're not going to go down that rabbit hole today though. But yeah, so yes to what you're saying, and then also all these chemicals that are in our foods. Like I can't remember if I talked about this on the last podcast with you, but about yeah, the diet foods, like being in like competitions and eating low calorie things, and like thinking, okay, I could have 100 calories, so I'm gonna eat 100 calories of this, and it's like 17 ingredients, and you're just like, what the heck are half of those things? It is very true how harsh it is on the body. I did want to use an example because I have been complaining to my clients about this. I love you guys. So since I've been back from Italy, which is now like 3 weeks, I've been super sick. Like like my stomach just hurts after almost everything I eat. I mean, I don't cut sugar out completely. I ate Nutella the other day, but it was Nutella from Italy, so don't knock me. It is what
That
it
makes it
is.
better.
It does. It actually does, because they don't add like, it's only 7 ingredients. I'll send you the link. But anyway, I went down a rabbit hole of the water industry
Oh, yeah.
recently. Like it was bad. So I first noticed when I came back, I couldn't drink Poland Springs water anymore. So I get home. Well, I was on the plane and I don't know what water they gave me. Whatever bougie thing is in Delta priority, whatever. And I was like, this doesn't taste right, but I'm on the plane, whatever. I get home, I start chugging Poland Springs. I just was on a plane. I'm thirsty. And I'm like, no, this tastes like chemicals. It was the most bizarre thing. Now, you're probably thinking, like, that's wild. And for girls that are listening or watching, you ever put like lip gloss on and then you go to take a sip of something, you taste your lip gloss. Like, that's how it tasted to me. So I'm looking at Mauricio and I was like, this tastes like chemicals. Taste it. He goes, it doesn't taste like chemicals to me. I'm like, no, 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 I'm not playing this game. So I kept trying more Poland Springs waters and it was the same thing. And I'm like, okay, so it's me. I'm the problem. So I now have to get Aquapana in glass bottles delivered every day. I kid you not. And then I also don't cook with it. I cook with Aquapana. And then I had to get an imported mineral water because I like I was almost gonna say in Italian. I like sparkling water, so like I need a little bit of like that at the when I drink some water. I literally have to get both of those now because I literally can't stomach the water. And then I was like, wait, who owns Aquapana? And then Nestle owns Aquapana. Aquapana's out of Tuscany. Yeah, go down that rabbit hole after
Yeah.
of the water company. But I had to literally stop drinking because it was making me sick to my stomach. I can only drink those two waters and pretty much only eggs from you probably heard of like Vital, is it Vital Farms? Like it's like non-GMO,
Right.
like all the shit that's added to our foods. So I'm not gonna go down a huge tangent with that. But
Yeah.
I will say when you go from eating super fresh, super organic, like they went out, picked it, cooked it, made it for you, there's such a huge difference, especially on your intestines. I literally can't attest to that enough. So highly recommend going to Italy and moving there just for like not feeling sick all the time.
Yeah, well, I mean, and again, that's the thing. You really just have to, if you really just step back and think about things, none of this is rocket science, right? Does it make sense that it would be healthy to eat this overly processed food with all these things, ingredients that you have no idea what the heck they are? And maybe it might just be a piece of bread, but it's got all these chemicals you can't even
That's
pronounce
what
in
I'm
it. It
saying.
makes sense that it would be healthy, right?
Mhm.
No, of course not. So just keep it simple, right? But living in Western society, right, it is extremely difficult to do that because unfortunately, again, it's all a business. And so
Yes.
it's cheaper to produce things, mass produce things with chemicals and all this stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so if you want something simple, which you would think should be cheaper, no, it's actually not. It's going to be more expensive. So, and that leads into a whole bunch of other things.
That's what I was just looking up, and then I'm gonna end this water discussion too because I need you to look it up after. So after I
Yeah.
went down that real quick, Nestle is worth, you guessed it, $320 billion.
Yeah.
So why are you making so much money off of water? And now I'm paying an arm, a leg, and half my soul to get water in glass bottles so I don't feel like I'm going to throw up. So yeah, I highly recommend everyone just taking a look, a quick Google search. You'll go down some rabbit holes and it'll be a fun time.
Yeah.
But I appreciate the fact that you also have gone down some rabbit holes with food, and it seems simple. Like even if you're like, I'm gonna eat this like organic, like you said, bread or something, the just some of the additives, you're just like, why? And the inflammation that it causes. But actually wanted to bring it back to real estate real quick. So
All right. You were going to get me off on the organic.
I know. But so since I was little, have always looked up real estate. I'm that person. I don't know if you've seen these silly memes. Like I'm up at 3 a.m. looking at $37 million houses and that I can't afford. But it's always been intriguing to me, and it's something that I'm not well versed in as of now. What would you say to someone that's, say me, right? Like looking to get into real estate and into investment properties. What's the first thing or some advice that you would give someone?
Yeah. The first thing you need to do really is identify what your goals are,
Mm,
right? Because based on that, and I mean, I'm talking what are your income goals? What's your time frame? And what are you really looking to achieve? Because based on that, that's going to lead you down the path of what asset class is going to be best for you. Short-term rentals is what I've been focusing on, but short-term rentals is not for everybody. And frankly, for people who have a much longer term mindset for building out their goals, I probably would steer them away from short-term rentals. So yeah, just get clear on what your goals are. Have a real strong why. And this goes for any type of business or challenging venture that you're going to get into. Have a real strong why, meaning why are you doing it? What is the foundation that's going to keep you going when things get tough? Because they will get tough. That's a given, right? And you need something that you can fall back on, because otherwise you're going to want to throw your hands in the air or throw the towel in and just quit and go back to whatever you were doing before, right? We're creatures of comfort. We seek out what's the easiest. So yeah, have your goals, have a strong why. And then once you pick whatever that asset class is that you're going to be pursuing, and if it's real estate, then you really you got to get involved and do your homework. So the beauty of today's day and age is that there's so much information out there, and you can get connected in communities, online, whether it's Facebook or, local meetups or that type of thing. The networking is going to be critical. Like real estate is all about relationships. Like it really is. And getting connected and into those communities is going to be super, super important. But doing your homework, and I guess just going back to being disciplined about it, right? Because one of the big things that newer people get tripped up on is that there's so much information out there, they don't even know where to start. Because they can't, it's overwhelming. They can't filter it down to what's essential. What do I need to know? And so they get stuck in what's, common phrase in the real estate world is analysis paralysis, right? You might have gotten to the stage where now you're analyzing deals, and that's all you end up doing. Analyzing deals. You never submit an offer and you never buy anything, right? So many people get stuck there because it is overwhelming, and it's a little scary, especially when it's your first deal. So that's why the community is important. And, finding a mentor, whether it's a paid mentor or, or somebody, that you can follow even online or whatever, or just people that you meet that are more experienced in the industry. But finding a mentor or a community or somebody that can be a sounding board is going to be critical to you, because that's what's going to get you over the hump of that analysis paralysis phase. Give you the confidence that, hey, okay, I pulled the trigger. If I run into something that I don't know how to handle it, at least I have, a community that I can kind of reach out to help me sort through it. And I leverage that huge. I mean, I'm very active in the various, short-term rental communities online and things like that. And, I utilize them, and I try to, help out in them as well as much as I can. So that was a bit of a long answer there, but
no, honestly, I think that was perfect because that's applicable to every industry. So as you were explaining what you were talking about, those are things that I went through in the fitness industry and starting my business. So I think that's very applicable to anyone wanting to venture out, start a business or learn something, but especially real estate, which again has always intrigued me. So I think those are very helpful words, Cale. So unfortunately, we're going to wrap up, but I want to let our listeners and hopefully viewers know where they can find you and reach you. So could you give us that information?
Yeah. So Facebook or Instagram, it's just Cale Delaney. You can search me up and find me there. Like I said, I'm very active in a lot of the short-term rental Facebook communities. On my Instagram, you'll find various stuff. And you can reach out to me by email if you want. It's Delaney Real Estate Investments at Gmail. And hit me up. Happy to help out. You can check out our podcast, the Fit Investor Podcast. Yep. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Well, I will put all of your information below so everyone can, in case they missed that. And Cale, I thank you so much for going down like 2.5 rabbit holes with me, giving our listeners some advice on real estate and starting their own business and really honing in on being disciplined. So I really appreciate your time today. Clearly, I can't speak English since I've been home. So thank you so much, Cale. And hopefully everyone listening, will be reaching out to both of us. And for everyone listening, have a great morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are. Thanks, everyone.